Connecting. You're listening to the Musicians Help Desk podcast, brought to you by the Music Districts. Hello out there. You're listening to the Musicians Help Desk, a podcast of real talk between musicians. We talk about the fireworks, the influences, the inspirations, the music, but we take a deeper dive into the resourcefulness, ingenuity, chops, and grit that keep real music careers on the road in this era. I'm your host, Alicia, and this week we're fortunate to have LA surf rock band La Luz in residence with us at the Music District. La Luz takes a minute out of a busy touring schedule to talk about what they can't stop listening to, what happens to a record when Dan Auerbach is a big fan of yours, and why LA, City of Artists, might be a better place to move once established as opposed to the fledgling moments of your career. We're tuning in from the media library of the Music District. Here's a chat with La Luz. From the Music District today, we have guitarist Shayna Cleveland, drummer Marion Lupino, keyboardist Alice Sandel, and bassist Lena Simon. They've just released their third full-length album, Floating Features, and are touring in support of the record across the U.S. through June before heading overseas this September. They brought down the house at Hodie's Half Note here in Fort Collins 2 nights ago and rocked a sold-out Larimer Lounge in Denver last night. They're staying with us at the Music District on a rare day off. La Luz, welcome, and thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today. First and most importantly, I know you guys are having a little difficulty with the AC in your van, but I'm curious what your stereo system's like.
Pretty standard.
No, we installed some huge subs in the back, and some LED lights underneath the car, and
we just got the cheapest one they had at Best Buy.
So you obviously put long hours on the road in the van. I'm curious, do you listen to music together? And if so, what are you listening to, or what are you sneaking into your headphones?
Yeah, sometimes there's like no choice but to hear what's playing in the van. But then sometimes like someone will be listening to something they're into that I haven't heard before, and that's how I discover a lot of new music. Actually, is whatever these guys put on.
Awesome. So what are you guys listening to right now, or what are you most excited about? I guess we can kind of start over here with Lena.
Oh, I was hoping I wouldn't have to start.
We don't have to start with you.
I can start, actually, because the first thing that came to mind when you started that off, that question about what, musically you're excited about, I've been really loving Savila, the band that last night was the last show that they're doing with us on this tour, but we've been touring with them. They're from Portland, and they're really great. They're friends as well, but they're just like awesome musicians and danceable music. Yeah, the performance is great.
I always on tour for the last, 4 years or so. I listened to a lot of Ancient Forest, the band that we were on tour with before Savila. This band from, I guess the songwriter lives in Seattle now, but we met them in Missoula, Montana on tour. And they're just really great. And a lot of headphone stuff. I'm trying to think what I've been listening to on my headphones. And I've kind of been just doing a lot of podcasts.
Do you have a favorite podcast?
I like the Kondabolu Brothers podcast, which is like not about anything, but they're just fun, just like two Indian brothers, and they're fun to listen to. Let's see, This American Life, and I listen to a lot of like just stuff about like race in America and stuff like that.
A lot of the bands I'm listening to now, I guess it's a big spread, but at South by is when I actually find new bands. It's kind of weird. I wouldn't actually think that would work, but it does. So we played on a boat with this band called Cones that I really like, really mellow driving music. These girls might not be as big of fans as I am for this other band that I am crazy about, Cowgirl Clue. Yeah, they're so good. I watched them perform, and it was like my mind was blown. It's really avant, I guess. I don't know.
I call it DDR music.
Yeah.
DDR.
Yeah, like Dance Dance Revolution.
Yeah,
It's really.
It's a lot like Ariel Pink, though. It's like, I'd say that was the closest.
Yeah, I didn't put that one together.
I don't listen to Ariel Pink, so for me,
Maybe you should.
Maybe I don't want to. I like no clue. But yeah, I think that's probably all I got right now.
Yeah. Spotify has this cool thing where they have like, artists make playlists of stuff that they're listening to, and I've been really attached to the one that Chris Bear made from Grizzly Bear, and he has a bunch of just like weird, some of them are like, pretty prominent bands that you hear all the time, but there's this one that stood out. It was like it's called the Jan Hammer Group, and I think he was one of the first people to perform with what are they called? The synthesizers that you like plug, modular synthesizers. And it's this like 70s funk band, but he's using modular synths, and it's kind of cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk to you a little bit about this record that you just released and kind of what's next for you. So Floating Features is out into the world, and I'm wondering what goes on artistically in the aftermath of a big release like that. Are you already kind of like sketching out future music in your mind, or is all of your focus at this point really generated upon just, these authentic performances of this record every night that you're out?
Well, I think, so the record has been finished for like a year and a half now. So after that, like we started thinking about, there's some beautiful piano music in the background.
It's music district ambiance.
Yeah. Right? It's lovely. We started thinking about like how we wanted to build up like before the record was gonna get released. So we talked a lot about different like video ideas, and like met with people that we wanted to have like make those videos. So that was a big part of it, like before the record came out.
Yeah, the videos are great. I've seen a few of the videos that you have for this new record, and like artistically, did you have the people in mind that were going to make those videos? And was that imagery sort of in mind as you were writing and composing as well?
Definitely not in mind before.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't think it was at all in mind before, but I can't remember the first part of the question now.
Oh, did we have people in mind?
Oh,
to do the videos?
Yeah, I think we had kind of talked about working with Ryan on a video. It almost feels weird that we didn't do it before this album, because it just feels like we've always worked with him on videos.
Yeah.
But he lives in LA, and I guess this is the first album where we were also down there. And before, when we were in Seattle, we always worked with people that were in Seattle. It's just easier. But yeah, Ryan Brown did the Cicada video and the Mean Dream video. And it's just easy to work with him because he's a friend, and he's got a lot of energy. And it's, you kind of need that kind of like passion and energy to try to make a video as insane as Cicada on like a super limited budget.
Yeah. I think this was the most we've ever been involved in our videos too, which was really fun. Like it was really, like Marianne wrote the treatment for The Creature, and like Shayna was really familiar with Lauren's work, which she kind of built the set for Mean Dream. And yeah, it was really fun to like be more a part of that process too, rather than just having someone else write a treatment and tell us what to do,
Yeah.
So
that was
cool.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I totally agree. Like I was really disconnected from the videos before, and not to say that they were like bad videos or anything, but I just, for whatever reason, didn't feel personally invested in them, and it almost came to a point with this album that we had put so much work and time into it that it felt almost like wrong to not have a very strong hand in the videos and have a very strong vision, because before I feel like we would almost leave it up to someone else, and then I would see the result and be like, okay. But this one was like this whole album release was like, it was super fun to like just spend time with each other talking about it and working these things out, and it feels like us more, I think, than possibly other videos.
Yeah, you and Vice worked really well together too, I thought.
Yeah, he's an easy guy to work with.
Vice Cooler directed the Creature video.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. it seems like artists and videographers should be kind of collaborating on that process, because
Yeah.
it's so much of how you're represented and so much of your vibe coming across visually.
Definitely.
I do have to say, have you been to Meow Wolf?
No.
Not
In
yet.
Santa Fe?
Can't believe it.
You really, really have to play there.
We've
So-
tried.
Yeah, we've
They
tried.
don't
Really?
respond to our
Really?
emails. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we just played there on Tuesday. We just got in on this tour. I've never actually tried to contact them or anything, but it was amazing because they were closed for a day, and I was like doing some research on you guys and listening to your album, walking around Meow Wolf, listening to your album, and it was like the perfect juxtaposition.
Cool.
So
I've seen pictures of that place. It looks wild.
it is wild, and it's so fun, and you guys would absolutely kill there. So, I'll pass on a contact.
There you go.
I got an inside friend now. Sweet. All right, cool. So Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys produced Floating Features, and I'm curious how that came about. Was that something that you sort of aspired to as a band, or did he encounter your music at some point and express interest?
Yeah, his manager just reached out to us out of the blue and said, Dan's a big fan of your music. Do you want to come to Nashville sometime and just check out the studio? And they invited us to come record some demos. So we just kind of scheduled a day off on our tour at the time when we were touring for Floating Features. And we had a bunch of songs ready to demo by that point. So yeah, we just did some demos there and liked the way they sounded. So we went back to do the full album.
Awesome. So what is like his hand on the record? I mean, do you think that? I mean, when I think of like Dan Auerbach records, I think there's like a signature sort of tonal palette that kind of runs across some of the work that he does, and I think for being music that's like arranged really meticulously, it all sounds like loose and vibey, and like there's the right space for everything.
Yeah.
So how much was he involved in working with you on arrangements, tone, or was it just kind of like
We
do your thing, guys?
Yeah, we really knew what we wanted when we came into the studio, and I mean, yeah, he definitely has like, he has his mics and where he puts them, and that has a lot to do with, and like the equipment that's in the studio, that has a lot to do with the way anything sounds. But yeah, arrangement wise, it was very much collaborative.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like arrangement-wise, I don't even know if he had anything to do with the arrangements
Well, yeah,
whatsoever.
I mean, we wrote the songs.
Yeah.
We recorded it pretty much like as we wrote them.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say like we made the meal and he added the final spice or something,
Yeah, totally.
So you guys made a much publicized move as a band to LA from Seattle. And in other conversations I've read, it seemed like LA was important in sort of coming into your own as a band, or it seemed like there was something about the aesthetic of LA that worked really well with your music. Fort Collins is getting really excited about a burgeoning music scene here, and I think it fits some artists very well, and makes it tougher for others based upon their style or their genre. Can you speak to the importance of the move for you, maybe to inform others that feel like they might need a little different environment to really launch what they're doing? Or
Yeah, I think like for me, the part I've loved the most about the move to LA is it's really inspiring to be in a place where it really feels like everybody you meet is doing something creative. Like you're just surrounded, and people just talk openly about it, and you're genuinely interested. Like, what kind of project are you doing? Like, whether you're a writer or you're in film or you're a musician, and it's really cool to just be like surrounded by creatives, and so that's been the most inspiring part. It like kind of is a kick in the butt to like step it up myself, right. In the work that we do. So, because I felt like, and I don't know if you guys felt this way totally, but I kind of felt like personally I had outgrown Seattle, and maybe even as a band we had outgrown Seattle a little bit, and so it was a challenging move, but felt like a good one.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, for me, I just thrive on change, but also on space. So for as far as big cities go, LA to me is ideal because it's always changing, and it's gigantic, and it's weird and unknowable, in so many ways, and yet there is a lot of space, physical space, and just almost mental space in a weird way, because you're not on a subway, you're not like constantly surrounded by people. It's and even just what Alice was talking about, how everybody is kind of doing their own thing, and everybody's really, really focused on doing their own thing. It's kind of like no one's gonna be upset at you if you don't show up to their show, because, well, for one thing, it's probably really far away. And for another thing, it's like it's just sort of assumed that everybody has a million things going on. So it's sort of a city that has infinite possibilities, but is also really easy to just sort of escape into your own thing inside of.
Cool. And a final note on that, I think especially the juxtaposition between like a burgeoning scene like you guys have here, and then a scene that is very deeply established in LA. I think there is a lot of value to small scenes like that, like Seattle. I don't think if we had started in LA, it's hard to like really know what would have happened with us in our future, and if we would have had as much support, because there's so many like competing bands, and not necessarily in a negative way, but like there's just so much there, so much content that like I think things get lost. And in Seattle or smaller scenes, like you have this natural progression and growth, and then they like lift you, and then they put you where you need to be in the world. And so these kinds of places are really important, and LA is kind of like the city where you go when you've been established and you're,
Totally.
I can't even imagine trying to move to LA as a new band and
Let's
trying
start
to
a band.
make it.
That's like the death of. I think that like that's a really dangerous move that bands think they need to do. We got to go to a bigger city, and that's just almost like shooting yourself in the foot, because you are basically putting yourself into a market where everyone's doing this and they're so good, and you're never going to be heard, essentially.
Yeah, it took, so many years of struggling, I think, for all of us in Seattle to get to the point where we were even ready to be in this band together, and like I was booking my own tours for years and years with my old band and never getting anywhere.
Pay to play tours.
Yeah, and, getting home after a month, and maybe we could pay each other $100. And luckily, like I was, able to do. I don't know how I was able to do that. It's not like I had a rich uncle, somehow it worked. Just sort of sacrificed everything.
And it could be like a testament again to the city, like trying to do that in LA. It's so expensive living in California. It's really hard to get by, and you couldn't really afford that luxury of just like not working for, like in Seattle, it's just more freewheeling. Things are changing now maybe, but it was more open to that sort of, and even like the people that are open-minded to like musicians, and like, they want musicians to do well, and they want to support the arts.
The music industry in Seattle is extremely supportive, and that's why this, it's really important in a small town, or not a small town, in a smaller city, like I'm sure Fort Collins and like Seattle. It's so important to have some sort of music industry component that's out there trying to help bands, because in Seattle it's like a embarrassment of riches. It's like so many indie record labels. It's bonkers, and that's why I moved there. It's just like, totally. It seems like a good place to start a band.
Thanks, Shayna. I'm glad you moved there.
Joke.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you guys stopping in. Good luck on the rest of your tour. And is there anything else you want to add? Anything you want particularly the world of Fort Collins, to know about you guys or what you have coming up?
I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens here. I'm excited. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inviting us back. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us here.
All right, that's it for this week's Musicians Help Desk with La Luz. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. Find out more about the Music District, our artist residency, educational programs, community events, and all the exciting things we have going on here at www.themusicdistrict.org. Tune in next week for a Musicians Help Desk Special Edition Connect Call. On Connect Calls, we set up a conversation between a musician with questions and an industry expert with answers. Fort Collins-based recording and performing artist Kenzie Culver digs deep into the world of commercial music placement with Maximal Music Sync licensing agent Mallory Zumbach. Thanks again for listening. This is Alicia speaking for the Musicians Help Desk here at the Music District, and we're out.